Hey guys, it's DJam for Digital DJ Tips, getting into part 5 of our series on promotional materials. We're going to talk about email campaigns. Now, I know a lot of you probably look at email and think, ugh, I got to hit delete or report spam or get this out of my life, or as some are just working ever so hard to keep all the spam out of their inboxes. I have to admit, email is still a very strong marketing tactic to use. In my line of work, in all honesty, that's what I do a lot of. I design a lot of solicited emails that go out for our clients. It's not something you can overlook. Now, there's a right way and a wrong way to do an email campaign, and believe me, I've seen a lot of wrong out there. First, if you're going to do an email campaign, you need to build an email list. And there's a lot of legality to this if you live in the US. You cannot just take someone's email. If that one DJ who happens to send out an email to his entire email list and you see it in the meta information up top, that whole big chunk of emails, you can't take that. That's called phishing. And the reason why you can't take it is by FCC rules. The only way you can send someone a solicited email, honestly, is basically if they voluntarily gave it to you. Now, your friends are one story because they'll understand, but just going around taking people's emails without their permission can get you in a lot of trouble. We're talking to the point of either getting barred from internet service providers, or even worse, seeing fines. Always go legit. One popular thing people still do here and there is they get a pretty girl with a clipboard, she's in the club, and she's taking down email addresses. Others, they will just drive the point home, like even we do here on Digital DJ Tips, to give your email address so you can get on our correspondence list, and thus we can send it out. Even one other trick you might see now, especially if you have an account on Beatport or TrackSource, is you'll see an email go out that looks like it came from an artist, but you'll look at the bottom and see that it was actually sent through Beatport. Some companies with their big lists, they will literally solicit the usage of that list. And it's something you might want to consider possibly if you're trying to promote an event. Now, I wouldn't use Beatport's list for promoting an event, but maybe find a local newspaper or entertainment website. They might just possibly do it. I think it'll cost you money, but it's worth it if you don't have a list. The next step in an email campaign is, of course, finding a platform to use. Another big no-no in email is to basically send a whole list, a huge email blast out through your Hotmail or your Gmail or Yahoo, or whatever you're using. Some of you might do this, you might have gotten away with it, you might be doing it through your website, but the one big problem with that is a lot of mail providers will turn around and see this. If you're sending out 1,000 emails or 2,000 emails through Gmail, Google will find it, and more than likely, they're going to delete your accounts, which means you lost everything. Or they could, at least at the term, suspend it. You should look into using an actual system that's built to send solicited emails. The first place I tell you to look, especially if you have a website, go into the control panel of your web host. A lot of times, many companies will offer that right with it. Look for something that says like email marketing. They'll have it right in there. It'll have templates. It'll have everything you need. You can just put your list and send your emails out through there. Now, if you don't have that, then consider some low-cost solutions such as MailChimp or Constant Contact. Again, I repeat, do not use your normal email to send out a huge email blast. Now, in designing an email, there's always been debate on this. The standard is generally to design a 600 pixel wide email because that's generally the amount of space you'll see in an email client. There's been back and forth discussion about this now because right now, in all honesty, most people read email on mobile devices, not as much on laptops and desktops. However, while anybody out there keeps talking about user responsive email template, it hasn't been perfected enough to work. The one big problem also with mass email or email in general is you have to imagine email in terms of a code standpoint is literally back in 1998. I'm dead serious. You're literally designing and building things as if it was 1998 with tables and spacer graphics and HTML 4.0. Mind you, we're on HTML5 now with CSS3. So it tells you how far behind, and it's a lot of times kept that way because they're trying to prevent viruses from getting out there and other kinds of malware attacks. So they keep the technology dumb. Now, in the actual design ideology though, I would tell you to first think about the kind of email you want to do. There's 3 types I've seen. There's the ones you mostly will see from most stores and especially promoters where it's just one big image. It's pretty easy. You just take that flyer you designed for Facebook and plop it in an email. Make sure it's about 600 pixels wide and send that out. Another notion is simply to have sort of a combination of text and images. So maybe you'll have an image as header as your name as a DJ or a promoter. Then maybe a piece of text under there with a little image of the flyer. You know, the text talks about an event or something that's going on with a hyperlink that sends them to your website. Or you can go really simple with just plain text emails. If you receive the emails from Digital DJ Tips, you'll see they're just simple text. Granted, they're not the most visually appealing things, but for this purpose, you don't need it. It gets the information out there, and I'll be honest, Phil has a 100% then reception to it. That means nobody will have a problem seeing his emails. Now, what do I suggest? I think if you're using one of those systems like MailChimp, Constant Contact, or if you're lucky enough your web host has something, they're going to have templates in there. Either use one of their templates or even just look to see if you can customize one. I've been telling many people you don't have to have the most awesomely designed email when you're promoting an event. Most people just don't care. They want clean, they want clear, they want quick. They don't want to have to wait to download an email. They don't want to have trouble with an email. They don't want to, have any trouble. And that's probably the main core of most email marketing, is you're really trying to not annoy your customers because they start to hit that report spam button and then bad things happen to you. Maybe it's one person, that's fine, but when it's about 10,000 people all reporting spam on you, all of a sudden the whole email providers will just block you. I've had this happen to me once. Years ago, I had AOL actually block my email, and I had to get that one all remedied. Now, beyond design, I got a couple other tips for you if you're going to do email campaigns. First, don't send out too many in a week. That's a huge mistake to make because, again, you'll annoy your customer base. The best practice is only one. Send out one. If you have a lot of things to say, if you have a lot of different events, new music, then that's why you have to make a newsletter as opposed to one email that just has your one events. And frankly, if these people voluntarily gave your email, they're going to read it or they're at least going to look it over. I also have found the best times to send an email blast in a campaign is either on Tuesdays or Thursdays in the afternoon. Now, if you want to understand why, you think about it. Mondays, people are really busy. Fridays, they might not even be paying attention to their email. Tuesdays, maybe Wednesdays, and Thursdays especially, in the morning, they're going to get their huge chunk of email from all the stores and everyone else that they've subscribed to. But when you send the afternoon, suddenly it comes in as maybe 1 or 2 solicited emails. Thus, if you have a good subject line, they're more likely to go read it, as opposed to just picking them all and hitting delete like they would probably in the morning. I'll tell you to be careful with subject lines. This is probably the #1 way you could get labeled as spam, even without the user pressing any buttons. If you use something like free, cheap, advertisements, win, spam blockers will pick you up immediately. Try to also use unique subject lines every blast. It doesn't mean you can't repeat, but if you're going to have newsletter this week, newsletter this week, newsletter this week, it's going to get spammed. Try to always have a subject line that's supposed to be about grabbing their attention to want to look inside. If you're using images in your email, keep your sizes small. I've seen a few people who tried this. They get that 3 or 4 megabyte flyer graphic and they don't know better and they try to email that and nobody receives the email. Partly because the sending program won't even send it. Giant file sizes will only get you labeled as spam or blocked. Always put links to your website. And I'm not just talking about some link to somewhere. In fact, you should try to, if you have images in here, make everything clickable. Make your header clickable, make your footer clickable. Any images you have should try to click to go somewhere, except for spacer graphics. You should also make sure you have your social media on there. That should be part of your regular template. And the reason for this is simply, again, somebody might receive this email that never came to your website or any of your pages. Now you've given them the means to go different places. You're utilizing and maximizing that email. And finally, this is sacred, especially if you live in the US. Make sure you have a clear means for them to unsubscribe. I am not kidding with this one. FCC law in the United States has made it in stone that you cannot send solicited emails unless you have a means to unsubscribe. If you don't and they find you, you're probably going to face some fines. Now, you might be receiving some emails that never have any of this and wondering why. A good chunk of the time, a lot of those emails, like for cheap Viagra, come from servers in in Russia or the Ukraine or areas where the US can't touch them. But for everyone else, if you're sending emails out, make sure you put a means to unsubscribe, or else you could end up either seeing FCC fines if someone complains, or worse, they could complain to your web host and all of a sudden your whole site gets blocked. It's highly important. And that wraps up email marketing. If you're watching this on YouTube, please join us at digitaldjtips.com. We have a lot of great content, tutorials, classes, and a great forum you can share with other DJs. If you're on the article here, please ask questions. Leave them in the comments. I will answer them. Thank you much.